Hey everyone, in this video, we're going to build a Django authentication system. So we'll build out the register, sign in, sign out views. We won't spend too much time making things look pretty, but I'll put some links in the description to help you do that if you'd like to. We're focused mainly just on functionality of getting all of the in the built-in views for authentication. Let's go ahead and get started. So I have a terminal window open here. I'm going to go ahead and start by creating a virtual environment. So I have virtual env installed. So I'll start here with virtual env. And I'll just call it env for this example. And then on Linux or Mac, I can do source env bin activate the virtual environment. Okay. Now with that done, I can go ahead and install Django. So I do a pip install Django. And now I can go ahead and create a Django project. So I'll do a Django admin start project, and we'll call this one just call it Django auth. Okay, do an ls. Now we have a Django auth. If I cd into Django auth, look inside there, we have our manage.py and all of our root stuff there, settings and URLs, and so I have our Django auth directory there. Now here I can go ahead and run python 3 manage.py start app, and we'll call this app users. Okay, and now we should have that users directory there, and we should be ready to get started. So now, inside of here, if I go inside of my settings, I can start by adding users to the installed apps. So I can go ahead and just do users right there. So to start, what I'll go ahead and do is I'll run python 3 manage.py migrate to migrate the initial migrations. And then I'll go ahead and run a python 3 manage.py create super user, and we'll create an admin user with just a simple password here, and then yes. Okay, there we go. Now we have our project ready to go. We can go ahead and start building out our project. So let's start inside of our users app, and we'll start with our registered view. So we'll jump into our views, and I'll create a new view here. So we'll create a class-based view. So do a class register, and we'll inherit from, I need to import from Django import views, and then down here I can go ahead and do views.view to get our generic view class. And this will have two methods, a get passing in self and request as arguments, and we also will need a post as well, passing in self and request as arguments. Okay, now we'll start here with our get method. So what we want to do is we want to go ahead and create a register form, and we want to go ahead and render a template putting that form in the context. So before we can really create these views, I need to go ahead and create a form. So what I can do is inside of my users app here, I'll create a new file, and I'll save this as forms.py. Now inside of forms here, I need to do a few things. First, I'm going to import from Django import forms. And then I'll do from django.contrib.auth.models import user. And then finally, we want to import one more thing from django.contrib.auth.forms import user creation form. Now we can go ahead and create our user register form. So we'll do a class user register form, and we'll inherit from our user creation form. So this will give us the built-in functionality to set up a register form. We can go ahead and override this default form and add some other fields to it and kind of customize it the way we'd like it to be. So now inside of this user register form, I'm going to go ahead and create one new field. So this is going to be like a model form if you're familiar. So what I'll do here is I'll do email equals forms.email field. And then I'll go ahead and put an inner meta class down here where I can set the other settings. So we'll do a model equaling user, which we imported up above. And then I'll do a fields equaling, we'll do username, email, password 1, and password 2. So all we're doing here is we're grabbing the username field and email, our password, and then our confirm password fields, and we'll show those on our form. That's all we need to create this form. So this form's all ready to go. We can go ahead and use it now inside of our view. So what I'll do here is I'll do from.forms import user register form. And then down here in the get method, I can go ahead and do form equals user register form. And then I can do a return render request. And then our template name. So we'll do a users/register.html. And we'll create that here in a second. For now, I'm not going to worry about creating it. Let's finish our view first. And then the last argument we need here is our context. And so this will be the variables we have available in our template. And all we want available is this form value. So I can do form, or a string here, form, and set it equal to form. And that will give us a form variable that we can use in our template to actually show the form. Okay, perfect. Now let's go ahead and build up the post method. So this get method will run when we first load the page, just by going to the page. It will show this form. This post method will run once we submit the form. So this is where we want to hide the logic to actually save the user in the database and do any redirects or anything else we want to do after that. So let's go put some comments real quick on what we need to do. So first we want to go ahead and render form with post body data. We want to go ahead and check if form is valid, and then if valid, save form and authenticate user. And then finally, last step we want to do is we want to redirect when finished. So these are the steps that we're going to go ahead and do to save this user. So this first step, we want to render the form with the post body data. So we can start off by just doing the same thing we did above, form equals user register form like before, but we want to render it with our post body data. And so we have access to this request value inside of our arguments here. And this request value has a post value on it. That will hold all the data. And so in our case, if you look at our form, it should hold a username, an email, password 1, and a password 2 in that post body. And we can use that to then save that to the database. So back in our views here, we can go ahead and just put request.post, and that will get our post body data in this form. Now we can check if the form is valid, and that's very easy to do, which is if form.is_valid. If it's valid, we can create a new user. This will equal form.save. And then we can go ahead and authenticate and log in that new user. So the new user equals authenticate, and then we'll pass in a few different arguments here. We'll do username equals form.cleaned data, username, and then we want to go ahead and do a password equals form.cleaned data, and we can grab just the password 1. And so this form.cleaned data, this will just grab our values from our form. It will be saved in key value pairs. So we'll have a key of username and a value being whatever they typed in, and a key of password 1 and the value being whatever they typed in. So that's how we can get those different pieces of data from our form information. Okay, now that we've authenticated the user, we can go and just call the login function to log them in. So we can go ahead and pass in request and then new user to log them in. And then at the very end, we can go ahead and do a return redirect, and redirect to the index page, and we'll set this route up later. But we can put that in there for now. I'm going to go ahead and move these comments back up where they should be now that we have all that typed in. Okay, there we go. So we're just creating or saving the user, getting that value of that user, but then authenticating them with the username and the password. Then we can call this login function to actually log in the user. And then we return redirect to our home page, which we'll create later when we're finished with all that. And there we go. Now the last thing I do need to do though is I need to import these two functions, login and authenticate. And that comes up here. We can import it from django.contrib.auth, import, authenticate, and login. Like that. Okay. Now we should be good there. And that should be everything for this register view. So now we have our forms done, we have our views done. And now the last thing we want to do is we want to create an index page that we can set up to go to this route right here. And this will be a pretty simple view I'll create here at the top. We'll call it index, and we will inherit from views.view, and then we can do a def get, once again, self and request. And we only need to get, we don't need anything else because we're not going to post any data on here. So instead, we're going to go ahead and just return render a template. So return render request, and we'll pass in users/index.html for that template name. And that's all we need for that view. Now that we have our views all done, the last two things we need to do is set up our URL patterns and then create the templates for those URLs. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with the URL patterns, and then we'll come back and do the templates last. So inside of our root project here, we have our urls.py. And in here, we can go and set up all of our routes. And so first thing I want to do is I want to import my views. So I can do from Django.views, or no, from users.views import register index. And then I also want to go ahead and import some built-in views for everything else. You notice here all we did was create a register and index. We didn't create a sign in or a sign out. Those come by default in Django, so we don't need to create those. We can import those from django.contrib.auth. So from django.contrib.auth import views. I'll do as auth views just to kind of make you clear what those are, the built-in auth views. Okay, now let's create our paths. So we'll start with the index page, which will be an empty string, and then we can do index.as view. We'll do a name equals index, and then we'll create another path here, and then we'll go ahead and create one for our register page, the view we created earlier, register.as_view, and then we'll do a name equaling register. Next, we'll create another path here. This will be login, and this will be the route to log in, and they have a built-in view for that. So do auth views.login view.as_view. And then what we can do here is inside of the constructor here for this view, we can pass in a template name. So I'll go ahead and put in template_name, set this to anything you want. In our case, we'll do users/login.html. And then finally, we'll set a name as well, name equals login. Okay. And now we can do something similar for the log out. So do a path log out, do auth views.logout view, and then we won't pass a template name in here, do a name equaling log out. Okay, and there are all of our URL patterns. So all we have to do is just use these two built-in views. Although I did make one mistake here, this should be .as_view. But all we did here is we use these two built-in views and create our custom register page, and also added one for the index, so we have that available to redirect to later. And that is it for our URL patterns. So we'll go ahead and save that, and we'll jump into making the templates now. So inside of our users app, I'll create a new folder. We'll call this templates. Inside of templates, I'll create another folder, call this users. This is just the default path for our templates. If you want to change that, if you go in settings.py and go to templates and set up a new directory here, or a new path here to go somewhere else if you'd like to, but for this, to keep it simple, we'll use the default. So inside of our users, templates users folders here, I'll create a new file, and I'll save this as, we'll start with the index.html, I guess. Actually, let's go ahead and create all the templates real quick. So index.html, we have register.html, then we should have login and log out, or login, I guess. We'll have login.html as well. That should be all that we need, I believe. Yes, we should be good there. Okay, so let's start with the index.html. So I'll go ahead and just generate a new file there, and inside the title here, we'll call this just Django Authentication. And then on this page, we're not going to have a whole lot here. All I want to do, just to show how things work, is I want to create an H1 here. I'll say home page. And then below this, I'm going to go ahead and create a paragraph tag. This paragraph tag is just going to show the current logged in user. So logged in user. And then we can do two curly braces. And inside of here, we can do request.user. So every Django template will have access to the request as well. And that request has the user on it, and this will be the user name here. So we can get that and just show it, just to show who's logged in if someone is logged in. Okay, now our login template. We'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and just copy this just to make things a little easier. We'll paste that in here, and now change the title here to be login. Now we could go ahead and create like a base template and add all these in as like variables and content blocks within it, but there's no reason to do it for a very simple example like this. So I'll just go ahead and just create 3 separate templates. Now inside of here, we want to go and show the form. So we do a form, add a method equaling post on it. Close off our form right there. Okay. Now inside of here, every Django form that has a post request requires a CSRF token. So we can do CSRF token. And then below this, we can go ahead and do form.as_p just to show our form. So this is the form variable that we put in our context. And as p just kind of makes it look a little bit nicer. It's still not going to look good, but you can style that with some other things. I'll put those links in the description if you want to do that. But for this example, that should work fine. And then finally, I need to go ahead and create a button by a type of submit on it. And then this button will just say login and close off that tag. Okay, now that should create our login template. I'm going to go ahead and just copy this one more time. Go into our register page here, and we'll paste it right there. And now this will be pretty much the same. Let's change this here to register and the button to register as well. But our form is called form again, so it hasn't changed. It's still just the form variable, so we can keep form.asp there to show the register form instead. But that should really be it. Now we can save this, run our server, and try it out. Okay, it's running. We come back here, refresh the page. And now we're at anonymous user because no one's logged in. We're going to go to the /register. Then it shows us a register field here. So we'll do a test user, do test at example.com. The password will be whatever you want. And then we'll go ahead and hit register. And we're getting errors saying our form has no attribute is valid. Let's go ahead and double check that real quick. So it's our views here. We can come down here and find our form is valid. Oh, I just spelled it wrong. Valid, like that. We'll come back here. Let's go ahead and go back. And I'll create a test2 example.com. We'll create a password right here. Sign in. And I forgot to import redirect as well. Okay, we'll do that real quick. Import redirect. Let's go and try this one more time now. Okay, and there we go. Now we redirected to the home page here, and you see now logged in user is test3. So we successfully created a user and then logged them in using that code we wrote. So that works all great. Now let's go ahead and try the log out and the sign in. Now this will give us some issues that we'll come back and fix in a little bit. Let's go ahead and just try it out first. So when we log out, it takes us to the Django admin page, which works, but it doesn't really look all that great. And we hit login again, it takes us to the admin, which is not really what we want. We want it to go back to this page. So what we can do is we can jump into the code again, go into our settings.py, scroll to the bottom, and then we can go ahead and add a new field here, log out, redirect URL, and equal index. Now, if we were to sign back in, or actually we'll go ahead and just register another user here. Let's go register again, and we'll just do test4 at example.com, add a password. Now we're back here, log at the home page, test4. We'll log out, and now it redirects us straight back here, and now it says anonymous user because no one's logged in. And so that all worked perfectly. So now going to log out will log us out and redirect us back to the home page. Let's go ahead and try logging that user in now. And this will also give us an issue, but we'll go ahead and fix that in a second. Let's give it a shot real quick. So we'll just do test 4. And you'll see here we get page not found. And look at the URL here. We're going to localhost 8000 account/profile. If you wanted to, you could just create this page here, and then it would work just fine. But if you don't want it to go to this specific route, we can override that in our settings as well. So back in the code here, we have a log out redirect URL. We can also add a log in redirect URL. And in this case, we'll log in and redirect back to the home page. And that should fix that problem. So go here, go to log out. We're back here, anonymous user /login. And we'll add in our user. And it redirects us back to the home page with our test4 user now logged in. So that is all working great. We now have a way to create users, log them in and log them out using all the built-in Django authentication. Now, of course, these forms don't look that pretty, and we could do other things. You could use like Django. You could use like Django Crispy Forms, like right here. And this will give you some ways of making things look more pretty. I've used those in other tutorials in the past. For this tutorial, I'm trying to keep it basic at just the very simple stuff without going into other stuff here. But you could install, Crispy Forms, and there's all these template packs. I've used Bootstrap 5 before. You can install Bootstrap 5 here, and then just add that to your form to make it look better. And you can add the crispy tag, and you can go through how else to style things right here if you'd like to do that as well. So I'll put a link to this in the description if you want to take this a step further on your own. But for this video, I'm going to go ahead and stop it here. We built out the login authentication stuff, at least the basic login auth. If you want more advanced stuff like password resets or making things look better, let me know. I can make an additional video. But for now, this is really it for this video. All the code will be in the description below, as well as any links that might be helpful as well. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.